Hey, YouTube. So I ran a poll a while back, and this is it. And rather unhelpfully, every option that I put down had a fair chunk of the vote. There's not a particularly strong message coming from this, except that the page one critiques were the least liked portion of the show. Me chatting to other authors is the most desired, and I can do that. If there are any authors out there, especially if I've liked their book and reviewed it, then hit me up and maybe we can do something. Obviously, I might get a flood of people and then either have to say no to a lot or make a long queue. But we'll see how it goes. It'd be nice to have a little bit of a chat once I've worked out all the technical niff-naff. And book reviews, they're quite popular. So I thought I'd do a book review today. I do a lot of reviewing on Goodreads and have 50,000 followers there for some reason. Some oddity of the algorithm started steering loads of followers to me for a very brief period. Um, I'm a, I don't think I'm by nature a very generous reviewer, but having got older and also written books myself, that has steered me towards more sympathy for the writers and obviously as when you're writing books yourself you don't want to go around saying mean things about other people's books. That's not a very good path to success. So I tend to only review books that I have enjoyed and can say nice things about. Maybe not entirely nice things, but I will have good things to say about. Or if the author's been dead a long time, then I'll have fairly free reign to say what I want about them. Or if they are a multi-millionaire many times over and literally nothing I have to say about them is going to in any way affect them, either financially or emotionally, because they're just too lofty to even notice, then I would be yeah, I had my say about Harry Potter, for example. I wasn't particularly mean about it, but I wasn't full of praise either. Um, so the book that I want to review today or go over is one that. So I give a lot of 5 stars, but this one I would have given 6 stars to if there had been an extra bracket that I only got to use a limited number of times a year or something of that nature. And it's the Blacktongue Thief, which is a fairly recent release that's doing really well for the author. It's got a enthusiastic readership, shall we say. And I won't, well, okay, I'll try and pronounce his name, but I'm going to get it wrong. Christopher Buhlman. He um, has a sideline in, I think, going to Renaissance fairs and performing in some capacity. I think he's like an official insulter who creatively insults people in some sort of uh, pseudo authentic medieval style. But I've seen him creatively insult somebody who deserved it online, and he's very good at it. And he also read his own audiobook, I'm told, which shows that he has acting skills. I would never be able to read my audiobooks. I would kill them by my monotone delivery and failure to emote. Um, but this book, uh, it's not a comedy, but there's an awful lot of wit in it. It possibly, by some lights, people might say it was on the edge of grimdark, but I think a lot of grimdark work puts humor in there to lighten the mix. And if you put humor in that sort of fits the character and the situation, then that's well done. That doesn't that augments the story, I feel. Um, if you put in ridiculous slapstick humor, then you sort of undermine the emotional bond to the story, and take away a sense of risk. So I feel if you're going in the sort of slapstick, definite comedy direction, then you need to lean into it and go all in, because once you've started down that route, you have already paid the price for making those sorts of jokes, in that people can no longer take the book entirely seriously. Um, and so you may as well just go all in, and it's very hard once you've started throwing lots of comedy in there to have an emotional connection to the story. And pe people like Terry Pratchett can do it, but it's a rare skill. Anyway, so this book is full of wit, um, and wit can be the sort of thing that just makes you laugh. But that when someone is witty, they can also inject it into almost every line, um, giving you a sort of fresh perspective on things that isn't, in essence, funny, but contains that intelligence, that agile mind that looks at things from different angles. Um, and that happens on most of the pages in this book. It's first person, single point of view, um, and our man is in the thieves guild and gets ordered about by this fairly oppressive thieves guild, and sent on these various well, sent on one quest which takes up the entire book and involves him in all sorts of shenanigans. But there's definitely a sort of grim side to it, in that the enemy, which are goblins, but not as you know them. They're not. This is not. So some books adopt the sort of D&D races, and they just sort of import elves and dwarves and all of that. This is not that at all. The enemy is a kind of monster that Bjornman has chosen to call goblins, but will probably not remind you of any goblins you may have encountered previously. And there's lots of mutilations and torture and disease warfare, all not the center focus of it, not in a sort of let's stare grizzlyly at this scene of torture, but those sorts of threats and that sort of atmosphere provide the background, so that we feel that our characters are in a lot of danger all the time. And as I say, the sort of, in the point of view, the comic elements certainly leaven that. Um, our um, our man is making jokes as he goes along, to raise his own spirits and those around him. Um, and the dialogue is full of sort of clever twists. And what I like about the story, is there's a sort of really fresh take on almost everything. That there's just a slightly different angle or twist on. Also, like the goblins are different, but um, lots of the sort of tropes of fantasy are here, but in a new guise that makes them feel more interesting. And I think Bjornman has written horror before, and other genres which aren't strictly full fantasy, and this is, I think, his first sort of dive into epic fantasy. And he's done great world building as well. The It's not like full of songs like Tolkien, but there is a line or two from different things, and the sort of traditions and the sort of anecdotes and colloquialisms all feel sort of organically grown out of this world, and have a slightly different spin on them that just makes you feel like this is a fresh new place to you that you can believe in, and that's important. Um, and although it is a sort of gritty, uh, to some degree dark adventure with lots of danger and whatnot, he shows that he can really write where there's a love interest at a certain level, um, and there's just this page in the middle of it where he basically has the character sort of express his devotion or emotions about this woman, and he does it really beautifully, and it's not and it's in character, so it's not sentimental. Well, it is sentimental, but it's not sentimental in a sort of sugary, cloying way. And the phrases and expressions are all sort of original and new. I just thought it was really good. And just that one page in the middle sort of gave you an idea of the author's flexibility. So I'm not going to really go into the plot. There's a lot of magic in the book. The magic system is not a system really. There's sort of enough structure there to make you believe that there's some system underlying it, but it's never really explained to you, and I'm fine with that. I'm going to click onto my review of it. The um, magic systems are nice because they put some sort of boundaries on what can be done with magic, so that you then have the feeling that you know some of the limits on it, and that no one's just going to come along and sort of flick this switch and suddenly they've solved a problem that was insolvable just by saying, "Ah, we'll use a new spell on it." But the magic systems then sometimes lose a bit of that sort of mystery. Like in Gandalf, there was a sort of mystery and a romance about the magical powers. Although he didn't really display any, you had this feeling that it was a sort of feeling of awe about the magic that once it's reduced to a system, for me, goes away. And the lack of a system in this book brings back some of the magic of magic. Um, and the danger is, as I said, that it can be abused. If there's no limits, then sort of random stuff can happen. But if an author is good enough, then you have some sort of faith that they're not going to spoil their own book by sort of tramping all over the plot by just bringing in new magic. So, and I think that's the case here. That I had faith in the magic staying, in a sense, within its lane. That it wasn't going to just solve all the problems for them in a random way. And there's lots of so like our man has commanded some very minor spells, but there are powerful magicians at work, and there's lots of magic imbued items or magically imbued tattoos and all these sorts of things that again feel quite fresh and original. Some of them are not original, but then they're written about well. Um, and this was a book that I read in just a few days. I kept on going back to it. I kept on making time for it, which is very rare for me. So I'm reading at the moment The Discovery of Witches, which on the face of it is something I wouldn't like because it's full of witches and vampires and demons, and I feel I've seen these things done to death in sort of TV shows, and it feels a very sort of restrictive thing. I'm not a fan of vampire books, for example, but I keep reading it because it's well written. But it's not a book that I say, "Oh, I must stop doing this thing that I was supposed to be doing or enjoying and go and read that book because I really need to find out what happens next, or I really want some more injection of the enjoyment I have from reading it." This is a book that I will read when I find myself at a loose end or I'm on a bus somewhere or whatever. Whereas this one was one where I said, "Damn it, I'm not not doing this anymore. I'm going to go and read some more of this and get to the end." So that's my stamp of approval on it, if you like. Um, and I'm just quickly skimming down through my review just to see if there was anything that I've failed to say, but I think I've pretty much covered it all. So there you go, a book review from me. I'm answering the Vox Populi and doing what I was told. And maybe next up will be some author interviews, or maybe not. Right, let me say goodbye and stop this.